The final bell rang across Westfield High, echoing through halls lined with lockers and noise. Outside, the sun dipped low, washing the schoolyard in gold. 15-year-old Ethan Cole moved through the crowd like a shadow, head down, hands stuffed in the pockets of his worn hoodie. He didn't speak to anyone. No one spoke to him. They called him the foster kid, the charity case, the one with no family. He'd learned not to answer. Words only led to bruises. But today would be different. Today, the boy everyone ignored was about to make the kind of choice that rewrites lives. Before we start this story, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing to our channel and don't forget to hit the hype button. Ethan's world had been small for as long as he could remember. Group homes, second-hand shoes, nights staring at ceilings and wondering why he wasn't enough for anyone to keep. Art was his only escape. The sketchbook in his backpack carried the worlds he wished existed. Families smiling, a mother's hand on his shoulder, a home with laughter. But here at Westfield High, dreams didn't mean much, especially when kids like Tyler Griggs ran the place. The quarterback, with perfect hair and cruel eyes, who made life miserable for anyone different. Ethan had learned to avoid him, but fate doesn't care about careful plans. That Friday, when he walked past the parking lot, he saw Tyler and his friends circling someone. A girl in a leather jacket, her backpack dumped on the pavement. Her name was Ava Miller, though most whispered something else behind her back. The biker's kid. Ava stood her ground, shoulders squared, refusing to cry. "Your dad's one of those hellsangels, huh?" Isla sneered, kicking her bag farther. "What's it like living with criminals?" Ava's jaw tightened. "He's not a criminal. He helps people, yeah? With what, scaring them?" Ethan's chest burned. He'd heard enough. He knew that look. The same mix of shame and defiance he'd worn for years. Before his brain could stop him, his body moved. "Hey!" His voice cracked through the laughter. "Why don't you pick on someone who can fight back?" The group turned. Tyler smirked. "Oh, look, the orphan speaks." He took a step closer. "You want to play hero, charity boy?" Ethan didn't answer. He just stepped between Ava and them, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Behind him, Ava whispered, "You don't have to do this." But Ethan didn't move. Because for once, he wasn't running. It happened fast. Tyler's friend shoved Ethan. Another one laughed. Then something glinted. Metal, cold, wrong. One of them pulled a gun. It wasn't supposed to be real, but it was. "Back off!" the boy shouted, hands shaking. "You think you're tough?" Ava gasped, frozen in place. Time fractured into a heartbeat. When the gun went off, Ethan didn't think. He moved. He lunged toward Ava, shoving her down as the cracks split the air. Pain ripped through his side, hot and blinding. He hit the ground, air gone from his lungs. Someone screamed. Someone ran. The world blurred into sirens, voices, and darkness. When Ethan woke, the world smelled like antiseptic and leather. A steady beeping filled his ears. His eyes fluttered open to see hospital lights, and a face he didn't know, but somehow recognized from stories whispered around town. A man with a thick beard, tattoos across his arms, and a vest that read, "Hell's Angels, Redwood Chapter." "You the kid who saved my daughter?" the man said quietly. Ethan blinked. His throat was dry. "Ava, she okay?" The man's voice cracked slightly. "You took the bullet meant for her. She's fine. Because of you." He leaned closer, his eyes shining with something Ethan had never seen before. Respect. "Name's Cole Miller. I'm her old man. And from this day on, you're not alone, kid. You got 81 brothers now." Outside the hospital walls, engines began to rumble, low, distant, growing louder by the second. The town had no idea what was coming next. The rumble grew until the hospital windows trembled. Nurses glanced nervously toward the parking lot as the sound deepened into thunder. Ethan tried to sit up, but the pain in his side pinned him back. From his bed, he could see flashes of chrome through the window. Dozens, then hundreds of motorcycles pulling in like a steel tide. The roar wasn't anger. It was unity, power, family. Cole Miller stood at the window, arms crossed, the faintest smile touching his beard. "That sound, kid," he said, "is what happens when brothers ride for one of their own." Ethan frowned. "For me?" Cole turned. "You didn't just save my daughter. You reminded a lot of men what loyalty means. We don't forget that." Outside, engines idled in perfect sync, like one heartbeat split between 81 riders. The townsfolk gathered at the edge of the lot, whispering, staring at the sea of black leather and patches gleaming under the noon sun. For once, fear and awe blurred together. By the time the mayor arrived, the hospital looked like a movie set, cameras, onlookers, reporters trying to understand why the most feared motorcycle club in the state was guarding a hospital entrance like a fortress. Cole stepped out to meet them, flanked by riders with names stitched in red and gold: Trigger, Doc, Hawk, each of them rough around the edges. Yet their eyes told a different story. Respect, discipline, brotherhood. "We're not here for trouble," Cole told the sheriff calmly. "We're here for gratitude. That boy inside, he's family now." The sheriff, who'd known Cole for 20 years, nodded slowly. "You sure about this, Cole?" "He's just a kid." Cole's gaze hardened. "He's the kind of kid the world forgets until he does something nobody else would. That makes him one of us." The sheriff didn't argue. He didn't have to. That evening, Ethan finally managed to sit up, wincing as he shifted. The door opened, and Ava stepped in, her arm in a sling but her smile steady. She carried a small box wrapped in brown paper. "I brought you something," she said, setting it on his lap. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a black leather bracelet with a small metal tag that read, 81 strong. "It's what my dad and his brothers wear," Ava said softly. "It means family? They wanted you to have one?" Ethan traced the engraving with his thumb. "But I'm not—" "You are," she interrupted. "You saved me. And I don't forget things like that." For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to say. His eyes burned. He turned away, blinking fast. Ava smiled gently. "You know, you're really bad at taking compliments." 2 days later, the doctors cleared Ethan for release. When he stepped outside, he froze. The hospital parking lot was lined with motorcycles again, but this time the riders stood in 2 rows, forming a path between them. The roar of engines quieted as Cole approached him, carrying something heavy in his hands. A leather vest. "This belonged to one of our brothers who passed years back," Cole said, holding it out. "We fixed it up for you." Ethan hesitated. "I can't." Cole smiled. "You already earned it." Ava helped him slip it on. It was slightly too big, but it felt right. On the back, above the club's emblem, one word was stitched in bold letters: Prospect. It didn't mean he was a full member. It meant something deeper. He was one of them in spirit, a symbol of belonging. When the engines started again, Cole raised his hand. "Gentlemen," he called out, his voice booming, "ride for the kid." 81 motorcycles roared to life at once. The sound rolled through the town like thunder breaking open the sky. The people of Westfield spilled onto sidewalks, watching. As the convoy rolled down Main Street, led by Cole's blood-red Harley, Ethan rode in the middle, on the back of Cole's bike, wind whipping through his hair, his hospital wristband still on. For the first time in his life, he wasn't invisible. Every engine beat in rhythm with his heart. Shop owners stepped outside. To watch, some crossing their arms, others wiping away tears they couldn't explain. A few even cheered. The town that once whispered criminals now saw something else: honor, loyalty, family. When they reached the town square, Cole stopped and turned off his engine. The others followed, silence falling like reverence. Cole looked at Ethan. "You stood up for what's right when no one else did. That's what being an angel means." The crowd watched as Cole placed his heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "This isn't about reputation or fear. It's about heart. And you, kid, you got more heart than most grown men I know." Ethan looked up at him, voice trembling. "Thank you for everything." Cole shook his head. "No, son, thank you. You reminded 81 brothers what we're supposed to be." The engines ignited again, a chorus of thunder that carried through every street of Westfield, leaving behind not fear, but respect. The convoy of bikes rolled out toward the edge of town, where the road stretched into open countryside. Ethan had never felt air like this, fast, clean, alive. He clutched the back bar of Cole's Harley, the rumble beneath him vibrating through his bones. They rode for nearly an hour, until the road curved toward an old warehouse by the river. Cole parked and nodded toward a sign above the heavy metal doors. "Redwood Angels MC." The paint was weathered, but the emblem gleamed bright, a skull with flaming wings, surrounded by the number 81. Inside, the scent of oil, leather, and barbecue filled the air. The clubhouse wasn't what Ethan expected. There were pool tables, framed photos of charity rides, and shelves lined with trophies, not for fighting, but for fundraisers, veteran events, and toy runs. Men who looked fierce in leather were laughing, grilling food, and helping a mechanic fix an old wheelchair ramp near the door. "This is what they never tell you," Cole said, watching Ethan's wide eyes. "People see the jackets, the tattoos, the noise, and they think we're trouble. But what we really are is family, brothers and sisters who look out for each other, and for anyone who's got no one else." Ethan swallowed hard. "Like me." Cole smiled. "Exactly like you." Inside the clubhouse, everyone turned when they saw Ethan. Conversations hushed, then slowly turned into nods of respect. One of the older bikers, a giant of a man with silver hair and a scar down his cheek, stepped forward. "So you're the kid who took that bullet?" Ethan froze, unsure what to say. "I guess." The man grinned, his voice deep as gravel. "Then you're one of us. No guessing needed." He extended a massive hand. "Name's Iron Mike. Been riding since before your parents were born." Ethan shook his hand, surprised at how gentle the grip was. Another biker, a woman with braided red hair and a patch that said medic, handed him a can of soda. "You hungry, sweetheart? We don't let heroes go unfed here." Ethan chuckled nervously. "I'm okay, thank you." Cole stood beside him, proud. "This is family, kid. Everyone in this room has taken hits, lost people, and kept going. You belong here now." The laughter, the warmth. It felt strange, but right. For the first time in forever, Ethan didn't feel like a guest. He felt like he'd come home. As the evening went on, Cole brought Ethan to a quiet corner of the clubhouse, where a display case sat against the wall. Inside were framed photos, old patches, and names engraved in metal. "This is our memory wall," Cole said softly. "Brothers and sisters who gave their lives protecting others. Not from wars or fights, but from fires, floods, and the world's indifference." Ethan's gaze stopped on one photo, a young man smiling on a bike with a small child in front of him. The nameplate read, Daniel Ghost Miller, 1985-2018. Ethan looked up. Was he your brother? Cole nodded. My blood brother. Died pulling 2 kids from a burning car. People called him reckless, but to us, he was an angel long before the patch. There was silence. Then Cole added quietly, You remind me of him. Always jumping in without thinking twice when someone needs help? Ethan's chest tightened. I didn't think, he admitted. I just didn't want her to get hurt. Cole smiled faintly. That's what makes it real. Heroes never think. They just do. Later that night, Ethan stepped outside for air. The bikes gleamed under the moonlight, chrome reflecting firelight from the bonfire the bikers had built nearby. Laughter echoed behind him, but his thoughts were heavy. Cole found him sitting on the porch rail. You okay? Ethan hesitated. Yeah, just not used to this. People caring, feeling like I belong somewhere. Cole leaned against the railing beside him. You earned that. You didn't ask for anything. You just did what was right. That's the kind of man this world's short on. Ethan looked down. What if it doesn't last? What if people just forget? Cole put a hand on his shoulder. Kid, when we ride for someone, that's forever. We don't forget our own. He pointed toward the field beyond the clubhouse, where rows of bikes shimmered like stars. Every one of those engines beats for you now. You got 81 brothers and sisters who'd drop everything if you ever called. For the first time, Ethan believed him. The next morning, the town woke to a sight they'd never forget. The 81 bikers rode through Westfield again, this time not as a statement, but as a promise. Each bike carried a small flag that read, Ride for Ethan. The convoy stopped at Westfield High. Principal Watson, teachers and students gathered on the steps. Even the bullies who once tormented Ethan stood frozen, shame painting their faces. Cole dismounted, motioning for Ethan to follow. When the boy stepped forward, the entire group of bikers removed their helmets and bowed their heads, a show of respect few had ever witnessed. This boy, Cole's voice thundered through the silence, stood between fear and innocence, between hate and love. He proved that courage doesn't wear size, wealth, or bloodlines. It wears heart. A hush fell. Then one by one, the bikers started clapping. The sound grew, joined by the crowd, until it was a roar louder than the engines themselves. Ethan blinked back tears. Cole handed him a brand-new art set, the kind he'd once only dreamed of owning. The brothers chipped in, he said. Figured our kid artist deserved the right tools. Ethan laughed through his tears. I don't even know how to thank you. Cole smiled. You already did, son. You reminded the world who we really are. By that afternoon, word had spread beyond Westfield. News crews arrived, filming the rows of Harleys and the boy in the oversized leather vest standing at their center. Reporters asked questions. Why would a biker gang care about a school kid? But Cole didn't flinch. He faced the cameras and said simply, because that boy showed more heart than most men ever will. You call us outlaws, but he saw people worth saving. That's family. The crowd went silent. No sound but the soft idling of engines and the click of cameras. For the first time, people weren't seeing criminals in leather. They were seeing brothers, fathers, veterans, workers, and protectors. The hellsangels weren't there to make trouble. They were there to show the town what loyalty really looked like. That night, the photo of Ethan standing beside Cole and Ava, surrounded by 81 Hell's Angels, spread online. The caption under it read, The day a boy's courage melted a town's fear. Within hours, millions had seen it. But for Ethan, the real change wasn't in headlines. It was in his heart. For once, he felt seen. Days later, Ethan visited Ava's home for the first time since the shooting. Her mother, a kind woman with soft eyes, greeted him at the door and hugged him tight before he could even speak. "You saved my baby," she whispered. "You saved all of us." Inside, the walls were covered in photos of riders, charity events, and smiling families. One picture caught Ethan's eye, Cole handing a teddy bear to a sick child during a hospital toy run. He pointed at it. "You guys really do that." Ava smiled proudly. "Every Christmas, every Easter, every time we can. Dad says kids need hope more than anything." Ethan nodded slowly, realizing the world had been lying to him all along. The hellsangels weren't monsters. They were men and women with big hearts wrapped in rough edges, people who'd seen darkness but still chose to bring light to others. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan and Ava sat on the porch steps, the faint sound of distant engines humming like comfort. Ava kicked at the gravel, then glanced at him shyly. "You really didn't have to do what you did," she said. Ethan shrugged. "Yeah, I did." "You're the first person who ever talked to me like I mattered." Ava's eyes softened. "You always mattered, Ethan. You just needed someone to remind you." He smiled faintly. "Guess your dad did that too," she laughed. "Oh, he never lets anyone forget a good deed. You're stuck with us now, you know." "Stuck?" She grinned. "Yeah, family doesn't walk away. It rides together." Ethan chuckled, the words sinking deep. For a kid who'd grown up watching everyone leave, the idea of people staying, of belonging, felt like the most beautiful thing in the world. A week later, Cole called Ethan to the clubhouse. When he arrived, everyone was waiting, the entire Redwood chapter standing in a semicircle. Cole stepped forward holding a leather jacket, smaller than the rest but custom-made. "This one's yours," he said. "Not honorary this time. Real patch, real pride." "You earned it." Ethan slipped it on, his throat tight. On the back, under the classic winged skull logo, it read, "Brotherhood 81, Young Blood." The bikers clapped, some whistled, and Iron Mike slapped him on the shoulder so hard he nearly fell over. "Welcome home, kid." Cole raised his hand. "One more thing." He pointed toward a sleek, rebuilt dirt bike gleaming beside the fire pit. "That was Ghost's old project, my brother's. We finished it for you. Figured it's time you had some wheels of your own." Ethan froze, speechless. "You're giving me this?" Cole smiled. "No, we're trusting you with it." Big difference. The crowd cheered as Ethan started the bike. The engine purred like a heartbeat, steady and strong. For the first time, the sound of a motor didn't just mean noise. It meant belonging. Months later, Westfield had changed. The same people who once crossed the street when bikers rode by now waved from their porches. Kids wore shirts with the phrase, "Ride with Heart, 81 strong." And at Pinewood Children's Home, where Ethan once slept alone, a brand new art room stood, built and funded by the Hells Angels Redwood chapter. The plaque at the door read, "In honor of Ethan Cole, the boy who taught a town that family has chosen, not born." One evening as the sun set behind the hills, Ethan rode alongside Cole and Ava on a long stretch of open road. The wind rushed past his face, the world stretching wide and endless. Cole looked over, smiling beneath his helmet, and shouted over the roar of engines, "Feels good, doesn't it?" Ethan nodded. "Feels like home." They rode into the golden horizon, engines thundering in unison, 81 hearts beating as one. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope, and tell us where you're watching from. Because sometimes the people the world fears most are the ones who save it.